All right, guys, welcome back to Middle Class Reactions. So I'm sure some of y'all, if y'all pay attention to politics, this debate has been making the rounds. The Piers Morgan show is always kind of spicy, but this one got real spicy. It hits on a lot of issues that, and I made a video about this probably a month ago now, about a lot of people getting kind of tired of the black culture, and this debate really showcases this. There's some good points made with people who I usually wouldn't listen to. So, yeah, we're going to take a look at it. I'm going to skip around through part of it, specifically the part with this dude, because I'm going to do. Can y'all see my mouse? No, you can't for whatever reason. Dude on the right here, I'm going to skip the part with him because I'm going to do a different video with him. So, yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Let's take a listen. I'm going to play the intro from Piers Morgan here, so you have some context if you don't know what's going on.
The way things are going, you're going to make a millionaire out of a woman who racially abused a child.
Did you call the child word? It is my own business. You call him a
What you're advocating for, it seems, is that for the rest of Shiloh's life, she should be canceled and silenced rather than try to bring some redemption into the situation.
If you call black people the N-word and racially abuse them, unfortunately, yes, it has consequences.
Everyone's flipping out over Shiloh Hendricks is saying the N-word. Nobody flipped.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and skip through this introduction because you've already seen the important parts. Let's take a listen.
To all of you. Ricky, look, my take on this is a stain on all their houses, right? I just don't know what is happening to society when you have such vast sums of money being raised for what seems to me to be deliberate, racially charged, motivational reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're fighting ugly with ugly right now. And I think this level of racial tribalism and hostility is just simply.
I think, and so whether you agree.
You know, when you're at the same mother using the N-word and that despicable.
Just so y'all know what I'm looking for the spot where Myron starts talking here.
To the extent that no one should be, you have a right to be racist. You have a right to free speech in this country. But I'm not donating money for it, and I feel a lot worse about her GoFundMe than the one for the person who's been.
Tax day has passed, but for millions of Americans, that's where.
Here's the thing, white people have been under attack for
good.
years. It's been systematic racism. As much as black people and people of color want to talk about systematic racism in the United States, it's quite the opposite. They get preferential treatment when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to getting into colleges. White people, on the other hand, have been getting attacked relentlessly. Look at 2016 and BLM and all the riots. We just had to sit back and watch people burn down our cities and do nothing about it. So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity. We don't see white unity on our side.
Hang on. Okay, but hang on. Sorry, just to be clear, this has got nothing to do with anything you've just said. This is a disgusting racist woman who repeatedly spews the N-word, first at a young child, and then at the person taking the video of her, does it with complete impunity, does it numerous times. We are talking about a bona fide, unquestionable racist. And so I don't understand why what you've just said to me bears any relation to white unity or anything that you've just said. She's just a racist. End, isn't she? You wouldn't dispute that.
Well, it's not about her. It's not about her. It's about
white people
coming together and supporting another white person. And it doesn't matter.
Why would you want to support a white racist?
Because I want to support free speech, and you cannot have free speech in the country.
No, that's fine. You can support free speech, but you also have to be accountable for what you say. She is. I mean, would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would.
Mm-hmm. I do quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well.
So I don't agree with this lady here on a lot of things. I agree with her on some stuff, but I will say she's got some balls going on Piers Morgan's show and falling on that sword, especially with this dude on the left. With that guy right there, because that guy right there is like, oh well, you'll see how he reacts. But I'm not saying I agree with her on everything, but she's got balls, man. To fall on that sword on this show, that's wild.
Why? other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the N word repeatedly, you are a racist, then, are you? Are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. If that means forwarding, helping white people achieve freedom of speech, real freedom of speech, which, by the way, Shiloh Hendricks is being attacked on all fronts. They're trying to bring legal charges against her. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different.
Sorry, but just to be
thing.
clear, you just said to me you use the N word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N word? When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable human being?
I guess so. I don't really care. I mean, why are we not talking about Shiloh Hendricks? Why are we talking about?
Well, actually, I think you've moved it on in this debate very quickly to your own racism, which explains why you've supported her in public and why you've got all these views. You see no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist, and you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying, actually, for most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
So here's one thing that bugs me about Piers Morgan is he'll go, and anytime race at all is brought into this, he'll go on this freaking tirade like he just did about how you're such a despicable human, but then he'll interview the Taliban, and he'll interview Al-Qaeda, which is like, I enjoy the interviews. Good on him for interviewing them. But like, you can't call one person despicable while you also bring people on who are that. You know, it's like, it's kind of hypocrisy argument here from Piers Morgan, but you know.
Well, shame on white people for allowing themselves to be systematically discriminated against in the United States. This is our country. This is a country that should.
What do you mean your country?
Because I'm white and my.
What, there are no black people in American history? Is that what you're saying? That they've all just landed in America? Invading your white country. Is that your position?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they were brought here technically.
My God, do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid. This is stupid and racist, and at some point we have to ask ourselves, do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
So now we get into, I disagree with you. Granted, she's saying some wild stuff right now. Like, to be fair, she is. But we immediately go into... on a show called Uncensored, funny enough, we immediately go into, should we be platforming her? On a show called Uncensored. I mean, like, what?
I don't disagree, Mark. Listen, I didn't know she was going to say that. I don't disagree with you.
No. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think you knew ahead of time. I'm saying at this moment, someone who's saying it's technically black people brought up. No, technically... Africans were stolen, enslaved, and they built this country. And
they weren't stolen from. I mean, we didn't steal them. We bought them. To be fair, like the colonists bought them, but they were. Let's not ignore the fact that they were captured, enslaved, and sold by other black people. Let's not forget that little quink-a-dink of a point there, because it's kind of a unfortunate truth that a lot of people don't want to remember. It's not like we went in the freaking Congo and rounded up black people, rounded up Africans. That's not what happened. Other Africans went in the Congo and captured them and enslaved them and then sold them to not just Americans. Actually, the vast majority of the slaves weren't sold to Americans. They were sold to other Africans. They were sold to British. They were sold to Arabs. The slave trade coming out of Africa, the vast majority of it wasn't going to America. But it's a whole different conversation.
The idea that you can justify calling a baby the N-word by saying that white people are losing the country is absurd. It's morally bankrupt, and it's honestly besides the point. I mean, all these other...
he does have a point there. I mean, there's no reason to say that to a 5-year-old.
These are just distractions from the fact that she wants to justify dehumanizing and even animalizing a small black child. It's disgusting.
What is it?
Yeah,
Although he did not too long ago when Trump had that little super young black kid with like brain cancer or something. He was one of the people coming on saying that Trump was doing it. It's racist that Trump had him on because somehow he was trying to benefit from it, kind of thing. So like, He's virtue signaling right now, and he only makes this argument when it benefits him. To be fair, to be clear, but he did make a good point. There's no reason to call a 5-year-old, those kind of names.
I never said that.
No, but you may as well have done, because you're just an unashamed
That's the implication of
proud
your that's the
racist. Let me
implication
bring in Myron Gaines, because you've been smirking and laughing. What's funny about it?
If y'all don't know who Myron Gaines is, I don't like him usually because he does debates with a bunch of OnlyFans whores that like I'm just not interested in. To me, OnlyFans, like, you're a modern day prostitute, and I don't feel bad for you having a bad look, and you should be ashamed. So, usually that's the kind of stuff he does I'm not a fan of. Here recently, he's been doing stuff more political. Like, he had Nick Fuentes and Destiny on his show that I was watching the debate today that I'm also going to be doing a video on. This side of Myron Gaines I actually enjoy.
Any of this?
Well, I mean, I find it interesting that you guys want to virtue signal and, wag the finger and say she's a racist and everything else like this.
No, she admitted she's a racist.
Well, let me
I'm not wagging a finger at anybody.
She's
I don't need to
self-identified as a racist.
But Myron, with respect, Myron, I don't need to wag a finger when somebody says, yeah, I'm racist. I use the N-word against black people. I don't care. That's a racist. I'm not wagging any finger. I'm not accusing anybody. She is admitting it proudly. Even you can't defend that, surely.
Everybody is racist to some degree. The reality is it depends on, a lot of people want to be politically correct. A lot of people want to sit there and say, I'm not racist at all. We all have biases. We all have stereotypes. We all make jokes. We all are racist to some degree. Now,
got a point.
How racist you are is a whole other situation, but everyone is racist. That's number one. Next thing I want to say, see, I think this Shiloh, Hendricks, and Metcalf situation is a microcosm of a much bigger problem. And that bigger problem is what I call systemic organizing. And what I mean by this is, for decades, we've had black people literally running around with black supremacy, committing crimes, not getting accountability for their actions, and then they blame the system for it. For example, George Floyd, criminal. Ferguson, criminals. Freddie Gray, criminal. A lot of these people are criminals, and what ends up happening is they challenge the police officer, they get into a physical altercation, things go left, they die, something happens, use of force is utilized, and then they want to cry about the result, when in reality, it's not the police killing black people, it's black people killing black people. And if you want to talk about black on white violence, black people kill white people 2 times as much. And on top of that, most of the shootings in America, a lot of the times, are white cops killing other unarmed white men. So
when he says most of the shootings, he's talking about most police shootings. The vast majority of police shootings are police shooting white males that have mental health problems. It's the vast majority of police shootings. And if this video ever goes viral, I know someone's going to come in the comments here and they're going to say, oh, that's because there's more white people than black people. I'm talking about per capita. Per capita, like if you took 100 white people, 100 black people, there will be more white males shot with mental health issues than black people shot. So that's what he's saying.
This whole systemic racism or police brutality or, oh, it's all so messed up. The reality is this. Black people have been able to get away with a ridiculous amount of privilege in America for a very long time. They're able to be racist with impunity. They're able to call white people crackers without being challenged back. And quite frankly, white America's had enough of it, and the chickens have come to roost. Now, look, am I saying that's awesome? Am I saying that's great?
So this is something I've been talking privately with some of my friends about here in the last probably 6 months before I had a YouTube channel, that at some point, and this is another one of those, if this video ever goes viral, I am cooked. But at some point, what you're going to see, especially for young men who don't have a lot of black people in their area, what you're going to see is they see the thing with George Floyd and how the black culture reacted to that. They read statistics and look at crime statistics specifically and just see what is normalized in black culture now. Then they see stuff like Carmelo Anthony. They look at all these things. What do you think is going to happen? And then on top of that, you have about 4 decades now. We'll say 3 decades. About 30 years of society saying, hey, white people, you need to accept, forgive and forget the past, and you need to accept black people into your culture. That conversation started in the 60s, but 70s was kind of sketch. So really about the 80s and 90s, it really in the black world, it leveled out. And so you've had pretty much since the 80s, so 40 years, 45. you've had it where white people are told that you need to forgive and forget the past. We don't act like that anymore, and you need to accept with open arms different cultures and different races, which is overall I think is a good message. And then what happened is as a white, like is specifically white males, but anyone who was white, as a culture, again, not person to person, but as a culture, as an ideology, we got sucker punched. And then it didn't become, hey, we need to all be friends, we need to all be equal. It became black superiority. And how do you achieve that? Well, that's by putting white people down. I forget the guy's name, but the dude who one of the major writers of DEI, I'll see if I can find his name. If I can find it, I'll link it down in the description. But straight up wrote a book that the whole book was about the key to fixing racism is reverse racism against whites. Then you have people like, you go on Jesse Lee Peterson's show, and he's having very prominent, not just some randoms, but very prominent people in the black culture and in the black community on his show that are just straight up saying that, like, yeah, blacks are superior to whites. And so what's happened is whites as a culture have been sucker punched. I was in high school, like 2015, 16, 17. We were told the whole time, not in my school, because I'm from small town Texas, but a lot of things that were being taught was like, hey, it's not okay to be proud to be white. You don't need to be proud of your heritage. You don't need, it's not okay if you say white pride, like, holy Christ, it's the end of the world. And then we would turn around and we see things, black power is a good thing. Black lives matter. Oh, that's a good thing. And then you say white lives matter. And it's like, oh, you're a horrible racist. And all these different kinds of things. I've been saying for a while that eventually that's going to turn around, and what you're going to have is pure tribalism, where you're going to have white people, the vast majority of white people, hating black people because of what's going on right now. And I think in the next 20 years, you're really going to see that. And you're starting to see it now. You're really starting to see it now. So I think that's where we're going to be going as a society. I hope I am wrong. I hope we can all be friends. But in general, if you look through the world right now, you have two cultures. I mean, people are tribal. They're tribal, like, as at our base. We're very, very, humans are tribal. And what's going to happen is that's going to come out where it's like, okay, you know what? We tried being friends. We tried being nice. And you sucker punched us. So now we're going to go back to our old ways. And that seems to be what's happening. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just observing, as someone who's lived in the South. I've lived on the East Coast. I've lived in on the West Coast. And I lived in right now, I work in one of the most liberal cities in the nation, in Northwest Washington. And it's like, y'all are gonna cause a race war that you don't want. And these kind of conversations, the fact they're even being had now on something like the Piers Morgan show, one, is wild. Two, I think they need to be had, because if we don't talk about it and if we don't start trying to find a fix to it, I think it could get very bad very fast. The George Floyd riots, the Summer of Love, is a fantastic example of this.
Great. No, but for literally the better part of almost 2 decades since the Obama era, we've had to have BLM and liberalism shoved down our throats, and quite frankly, we're all tired of it.
Right, but just to be clear, you would have no problem with one member of this panel openly saying she uses the N-word at black people with impunity and is proud of being a racist. You have no problem with that?
My worldview on the protection of the First Amendment and freedom of speech overrides my personal feelings. She has the right to say
That's
it.
fine. You can support the First Amendment, but you can also have a personal view about what she said.
My feelings are irrelevant. The Constitution is the Constitution. That's what matters.
Oh, that's fascinating. Hold on. So when it comes to chastising black Americans about their behavior, about calling white people crackers, as you say, about their moral claims about the racist system, you can levy a judgment against black Americans for all the things they do. But when it comes to this woman saying the N-word, and this other woman endorsing it and saying that she herself uses the N-word. Now all of a sudden we can only talk about the Constitution and the legal right. We can't offer any moral judgment against it. That's disingenuous, and it's as the only Black American up here, that's quite frustrating to hear.
Here's the thing. If you want to be soft and get offended by that, that's your fucking problem, not mine.
Let me ask Ricky.
We're not even.
Let me ask Ricky. Ricky,
this isn't about being soft any more than when you were desperately saving these white people.
Hold on. This sensitive nature that you have is precisely why we have this problem.
It's not about being sensitive. It's about I didn't articulate. Hold on. Let me finish, Myron. Let me speak and then I'll let you respond. Myron, sure. I didn't articulate any sensitivity here. What I said, in the same way that you levied a judgment against Black people, I'm levying one against the claims you're making. I'm no more sensitive than you were when you made your claim. I'm simply saying I disagree with you. And to immediately jump to you're being sensitive is just a distraction. I'm making an argument here. Just respond to my argument.
No. If you're struggling with sleepless nights and exhausting days, you might want to try Beam's Dream Powder. Beam is proudly founded in America and run by people who value hard work. Let's go back to the panel there. I mean, Ricky, it seemed to me a lot of inconsistencies in Mr. Wells's position, not least the donning of the Christian hat when it suits them, but then removing it when it doesn't.
You know, I think it's definitely tough to make the call here and there and where to censor. I err on the side of not censoring as much as possible, but I agree with you that the selectivity of having issues with abortion, but not with these campaigns is certainly a problem. But I also want to go back to our point before, too, and make the point that I hate this argument.
By the way, one thing I cannot stand is when someone says, and I see this in the gun community all the time, oh, hey, I support free speech, but. There's no but. Hey, I support the Second Amendment, but. There's no but here. You either support free speech, including speech you don't like, or you don't. You either support gun rights, or you don't. There is no such thing as, oh, I believe in people's freedom of speech, but Pierce is so bad about this. He'll say, oh, well, I run a show called Uncensored. That way I can have whoever I want on, and it's all about free speech. And again, he has literally had terrorist organizations on his show. But then someone will bring up a topic that, like race, that he's super, on one side of. And he'll go, well, I don't know if we should platform these people, because that's the fancy word they use to cancel somebody is platform. This guy in the center, I forget his name, this dude right here, he did it earlier. Hey, I'm all for free speech, but no. There's no but. You either believe in it or you don't.
Argument that because some people were tribal, we should be tribal too, and shouldn't we want to live in a society where we say tribalism is bad in general and negative in general, and so therefore we...
The human history is tribalism. That is human history. Different tribes killing other tribes. That is all of humanity.
We should be erring towards individualism and not fighting tribalism with more tribalism. I think that's a net negative.
I agree. Myron, your last words on this.
Okay, because I never got to respond to Myron's other...
The thing with tribalism, it's a natural human instinct. Like, we are literally designed to want to be in communities and want to be a part of a set of community because it ensures our survival. It's been that way since the beginning of time. So The thing is that people are typically going to align with people that share similar features, and that's why we have the tribalism we have going on right now. So the problem is it's not going to go anywhere. I think the problem is that we've had this penting up for literally decades, and this has been a response to it. You have people that are coming out and supporting someone who you guys might deem as a terrible racist, but I think it's also very important to understand how we got here, because if we're going to look at the smaller problem, we can't look at the bigger problem, and it's what I said before, unchecked systemic.
All right, Mark Lamont Hill, your last words on this.
This repeated use of the word, I think, first of all, I want to just register that as offensive, particularly as someone who doesn't identify as a member of that community and who is not, right? I think that's incredibly
I'm the definition of African-American. I'm the definition of African-American.
And troublesome, and to as a Sudanese American or an outsider who's using African-American in a very technical term, the same way that Elon Musk is an African-American, I think it is a bit...
Here, the funny thing to me here is that, like, he's, this dude in the middle here is saying, like, oh, you're using African-American in the technical term. There is... You're either African-American or you're not. And just because you're black, that does not mean you're African-American. I will die on that hill. Just because you're black doesn't mean you're African-American. Most black people today probably have the same amount of African in them as I have Indian in me. Like, extremely small. So, if you're 0.01%, if you're 2%, you can't say you're African American. You're black. It's like saying if I'm 2% Indian or Native American, I can't go around saying I'm Indian. I'm not. I'm 2%. Like, come on now.
Disingenuous. But the bigger issue here, I think, is that, you know, this idea of equating of one side to the other side often loses track of this issue of power. To use his example, when black people stand up and say, hey, let's build our own stuff. Hey, let's have a black power movement. That is not the same as a white power.
It's literally the same thing.
You speak uninterrupted. Let me finish, please, my Sudanese brother. So when a black person says, hey, let's preserve our culture, I have no problem with Italians or Irish people or anyone else saying let's preserve our culture. But when we don't talk about ethnicity, but actual race, and when white people say let's preserve whiteness, it's an exclusionary practice. It's about
20 seconds ago, he just said, hey, when black people say we need to have black power, and there's a black power movement, there's nothing wrong with that. But as soon as someone says white power movement, see, that rant I went on a minute ago, that's a perfect example of it right there. Perfect example of it. Because what happens, and we saw this again during the George Floyd stuff, what happens in black power movements? What happens? You have people who are in that movement, no, not one or two. You have a lot of people in that movement who are like, oh, we're superior. Okay, cool. So when white people come out and go, fine, we'll do a white power movement. Oh, you're racist. You're bad. It's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're going to have black power movements, you're going to have white power movements. If you're going to have someone in a group come out and say, hey, black lives matter. Cool, rock on, white lives matter. Racist. It's like, I mean, okay, I guess.
preserving laws and practices and tactics that do harm to other people. A black power movement was about opening stores and building businesses.
Yeah, that whole black power, Black Lives Matter movement, yeah, it opened up a lot of stores, didn't it? Just, like $4 billion in damage. That was all. That was it.
White power movement was a white power. That's the key.
When's the last time, think about this, when's the last time you had a negative white power movement happen? The only one that really comes to mind is the event that Donald Trump got raked over the coals for when he said there was good people on both sides. He had that one, the one dude in that crowd who he drove his car into a crowd and killed somebody. That's the last time I can think. That would have been what, 2015, 16 time frame, maybe 17. So working on 8 years ago ish, somewhere in the realm, 8 to 9 years ago. Yeah. Then we just had like 2.5 years of cities getting burned down and people getting destroyed or businesses getting destroyed, people getting killed. Yeah.
A white power movement was about something very, 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 very different. A white power movement included lynchings and included Ku Klux Klan, etc. So
when's the last time we had a lynching? When's the last time anyone's even seen a KKK member? Come on now.
Let's not pretend that these are opposite sides of the same coin. When white people say, let's save our country, and even using language of our country, when black people built this thing,
he does realize that, surely that guy realizes that it wasn't only blacks here, right? That was doing that. You had the West Coast was the Chinese. You did have blacks here. You had Irish who were white, who were also considered like the trash when they first came over here. It's like, you can't, and these kind of guys do this thing where it's like they pick certain parts of history and they're like, oh, we're going to look at black slavery. Cool. What about the Irish that were enslaved and brought over here as well? What about them? No, they didn't exist. Black people built the country. I mean, they helped for sure. But you're forgetting about the Chinese, you're forgetting about the Irish. Also just everyone who's just post-Civil War trying to, survive, and so they go to the railroad.
When you say that, you're talking about forcing people out of the country. You're talking about laws that discriminate. You're talking about doing harm to people. Let's not pretend these are the same thing. Just like these GoFundMe campaigns are not the same thing. I'm okay if everybody gets out of the GoFundMe industrial complex. I'd love that. But let's not pretend that supporting someone for a fair trial is the same thing as supporting a grown white woman berating and calling the N-word to a 5-year-old autistic black child. And the fact that everyone in here...
That fair trial that he's talking about, yeah, he's talking about Carmelo Anthony's case. where you had a black kid stab a white kid in the heart for, at most, a high school fight. At most, it was a high school fight. And a kid gets stabbed in the heart. And he's like, oh, you're just raising money for a fair trial. What he just said there in other terms was, hey, someone said some racist words to a 5-year-old. She's raising money on a GoFundMe style page. That's bad. The black kid who stabbed and killed a white kid for what was at most a high school fight, yeah, that's fine. That's cool. That's fine. But no, the woman who just said some racist words to a 5-year-old, she can't raise money.
Here can't be unanimous in condemning that.
I totally
says
agree.
Exactly how they're not the same.
I totally agree. I'm going to go to Lily Gaddis and just ask you one more time. I mean, you've been so unashamedly proud of being a racist today, proud of using the N-word whenever you feel like it. You've had a bit of time to think about this. Is that how you want people to leave this panel debate, with thinking of you as a disgusting racist?
I don't really care what people think about me. As long as you care about what people think about you, you have no power and you lose your country. What I care about is freedom of speech. And if you're not allowed to say the most offensive things in this country, you do not have freedom of speech. I don't care what anybody says. So that's the main crux of this situation. That's what I care about with this situation. It is, we have lived for far too long in a country where you can have your life destroyed. And people say, oh, she doesn't need this money. Her life's destroyed, by the way. She'll never be able to get another job. She's got children to have to support. And I don't want to live in a country where you can say an inappropriate, rude thing, which, by the way, black people can say things to white people all the time and they never get canceled. There's no backlashing about this. I want to live in a country where people are allowed to say what they want unashamedly. And you will
well, go
not
on then,
have
say
free-
it. Say
you
the
will
N-
not have
Go on,
free speech.
go on. Say the N-word. Go on.
No.
hang on.
Don't invite. No.
No.
I don't want you to invite this woman to say a racially harmful term in front of me, because I'm the only on here. So if she says it, I'm the victim of it. So please don't invite her for ratings to call me the N-word, because that's basically what it's going to be. There's a bunch of white people up here. You and one Uncle Tom on the left.
Oh, so it's okay for him to, if I was on this panel and I called him an Uncle Tom, he would lose his mind. The way that he's losing his mind right now, because Piers Morgan just said, hey, I dare you to say it. I dare you to say the N-word. And then he calls the other black dude or whatever, Sudanese, whatever that guy is, an Uncle Tom, is wild. The double standard there for him to say, no, you can't say bad word, I can say bad word, is wild.
Left here and ask her to say the N-word while I'm here.
I just want to know what that says. I want to know what that says.
It's ridiculous. You would not sit here with a Jewish person.
Is that a Klan sound? What is that?
And say, please use a Jewish slur in front of this Jewish. It's ridiculous. I understand you don't have any bad intent, Piers. I understand what you're trying to do. But we already know she's racist. And I don't want to invite a racial harm to me.
I hear you, and I accept that, and we'll leave.
I don't accept it. That's ridiculous. I don't accept it. He can go call the other black guy on this panel an Uncle Tom, but can lose his absolute mind over just the possibility of somebody else saying a racist slur. And then he uses a racist slur, a second half later. The hypocrisy here is wild. But yeah, so that's the end of this segment on that. It is crazy to me that this is being talked about now on shows as big as Piers Morgan. I think it's a good thing it is, but I think it's crazy. So we're going to leave it at that. Let me know what you think down below. Like, share, subscribe. Y'all have a good rest of y'all's night. I'll catch y'all next time.